Welcome into Wild and Wacky Wednesday on a Wild, Wacky, and Wet Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes. Be here with you for the next couple of hours talking sports of local, regional, and national importance. So stick around. We're looking forward to it. Hope you are too. Wade, happy hump day.
Happy hump day to you, Mo. Good to be with you. Good to be with everybody. And yeah, it's yucky, but the good news is you can go indoors if you're looking for hoops, or if you're looking for outdoor activity, football, high school football round 2, just 2 nights away, just 2 more sleeps until we get to round 2 of the playoffs.
Yeah, and this is supposed to clear up by Friday, is my understanding. So if it's got to happen, I'd rather it happen now than in another 48 hours or so. So yeah,
ain't no doubt about that.
Let's get that out of the way before we have to be out in it. Yeah, big show today. In the second hour, we will visit with Justin Adams of CBS Sports Colorado, talk a little Buffaloes, Big 12, Coach Prime, all that good stuff. Looking forward to visiting with him. In the next segment, we will be joined by Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media. I'm sure the Battle of the Boulevard will come up. Wade, did you make it?
Did not make it. You know, the traffic gods were putting me to the brink, and then we one of the foster dogs found a home last night. So
good for him.
Her. She went on to the next spot, but hell of a game, kind of as we predicted it would be last night. Look forward to hearing what Joe's got to say. It was one for the ages, it sounds like, yet again.
As it typically is. Yeah, we'll also be talking a little college football, a little NBA, some interesting happenings in the association last night. Talk a little college basketball as well, a couple of big matchups, little NFL. There has been a coach hiring in the WNBA, and I'm looking forward to getting into that because it's pretty interesting. Is intriguing. We'll get to it. And of course, it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Wade and I will close the show with the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. So looking forward to that as well. So yeah, good show. Lots of good stuff. Try to brighten up this otherwise somewhat dreary Wednesday because, man, it's not nice out there at all, but it is warm in here and dry. So we'll take that. I guess we should go ahead and get started down this road with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Buckle up, boys and girls. The Wednesday rundown is off. The Wednesday rundown is running. We open up with women's college basketball from last night, where Trevecca was a 71-61 winner versus Kentucky State. The Lady Vols knocked off MTSU 89-75 as UT defends its home turf last night. And as Mo and I mentioned, Battle of the Boulevard, crazy game last night, 80-79. As Belmont storms back late. Isaiah Walker, among others, contributing to the Bruins' cause there. Good win for Belmont. Tough loss for Lipscomb versus a rival, but a brief results slab from last night.
Brief schedule as well. Men's basketball this evening at 6 o'clock. You can see it on ESPN Plus and on the SEC network. Montana visits Food City Center at Thompson Bowling Arena, or Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center. I'm not sure which it is. But anyway, the Grizz taking on the Vols. That's a 6 o'clock Central Time start. Also at 6 in Atlanta, Howard and Tennessee State are playing in the HBCU Classic at Georgia State. Evansville visits the Glass House, taking on the Blue Raiders of Middle Tennessee State. That's a 6:30 tip. You can see it on ESPN Plus at 7 on ESPN Plus and on the SEC network. Cal comes to Memorial Gym, taking on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Also at 7, Fisk travels to Alabama A&M. And a 6 o'clock start has Cumberland University traveling out west, taking on Bethel. Oh, they're not out west. That's Bethel of Indiana. Excuse me.
Still west, I guess.
Yeah, maybe west of Lebanon, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
NBA action tonight, 9 o'clock tip on both ESPN and on FanDuel Sports. It is the Memphis Grizzlies. They are definitely going out west, taking on the Lakers of Los Angeles. That is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And it comes from baseball, comes somewhat from Atlanta, but more from Los Angeles, as former Braves catcher Travis d'Arnaud and the Angels have agreed to a 2-year, $12 million deal. I guess that preempts any, well, maybe he's going to come back for less. No, he's not coming back. But he did the next best thing. He's going to go play for Ron Washington. And that can't be all bad. Now, I don't know how competitive the Angels are going to be, but he's with a guy who knows him. He's with somebody he knows, and he's got a chance to kind of impact a young team. That's a very young roster out there in Los Angeles, and he can go out there and show them some things and kind of maybe bridge the gap between being a full-time player and into his next phase, because he is thought to be a manager in the making by a lot of folks in the game.
Yeah, you would think that would be a natural transition for him, and you're right. Vibes in the clubhouse, with the managerial staff certainly will be nice. Don't know how many games that will equate to, as you said, with wins. But hey, a nice check. He gets to go back out to LA, was there briefly before with the Dodgers, and now he, kind of comes back home in a sense from Long Beach. So a chance to go back, a chance to maybe, like you said, kind of wind down his career and pick up some managerial prowess or chops from a pretty good guy in Ron Washington.
Been with the Dodgers as well as the Rays and Mets prior to his time in Atlanta. 2022 All-Star, a 2020 Silver Slugger winner, and he's caught 1 out of 5 potential base stealers over the course of his career. That's not a small number, actually. So he's going to give them some help behind the plate, both with the pitching and in terms of maybe curbing opponents' run game. So, it's a good fit for him. Perry Manasian, who was with the Braves while d'Arnaud was there, is now in the Angels front office and was big on this as their GM. Not only someone that can play at a high level, but his makeup is off the charts. He's a winner. He's played on a ton of winning teams. He's got the ability to affect the locker room in as positive of a way as anybody I've ever been around. Great with young pitching, great with coaching staffs, great with managers. Like you said, hometown guy who lives 25 minutes away and really wanted to be here. So, all the pieces kind of fell together for d'Arnaud if he wasn't going to be in Atlanta. And really, I was kind of hoping that they were going to bring him back at a lower number, but I guess he figured if I'm going to go somewhere for less, I might as well go home. So nice move for him.
Well, yeah, and it seems like the front office for the Braves, kind of hinting at the fact, hey, we got some other issues now, as we talked about with the injuries, and going to have to plug some holes. So a perceived, opportunity to use that money elsewhere. seems like a win-win situation really for everybody, I suppose.
Yeah, got some other issues and got some other options. I mean, you've got Sean Murphy coming back. Those guys kind of split time this past year. Once Murphy got healthy, but you've also got Drake Baldwin, who's kind of pushing up from AAA. You feel like if he doesn't start the year in Atlanta, he's going to get here at some point this year. You've also got Chadwick Trump, who has been up and down for the past, 3 years or so, and he is definitely a backup, but he can give Murphy a day off, that kind of thing. So, maybe he can, if Murphy can stay healthy and you can spell him with either Trump or eventually with Baldwin, it's not necessarily a bad situation there. So, and again, like you said, that money can certainly go some other places. So we will obviously be keeping an eye on that and how that goes here as the offseason progresses. Travis d'Arnaud heading west as a member of the Angels after signing a 2-year, $12 million deal with them here in the past day or so.
And it makes it, just real quick, it also, if they weren't going to bring him back, PR-wise, it's a win-win for everybody too then, right? I mean, he gets to sign the deal. The Braves never have to come out and say, hate to say it, but we weren't going to bring you back anyway. So everybody kind of wins is where I guess where I'm going with that.
And the good thing is, they did it early enough where he was able to, kind of pick and choose where he got to. It wasn't something that lingered. We talked about, Charlie Morton yesterday, pretty well indicating that he intends to pitch in 25 and what that situation may look like for him and the Braves or wherever else. Does he get something done fairly quickly? Is he willing to wait and see what the market does and what the Braves do on the back end of their rotation? So, there's a lot of moving parts here, but that's one that has been addressed, obviously. Let's go ahead and take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company Studios, we'll be talking Battle of the Boulevard with Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media. Stay tuned after the break. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
He shoots, and he scores!
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are joined now by at Globe Sullivan, Joe Sullivan, former sports editor of the Boston Globe, currently local basketball writer for Main Street Media. And Joe took in the 151st edition of the Battle of the Boulevard last night down at Allen Arena, and it was just as good as any of the 150 that preceded it by all accounts. Joe, good Wednesday.
Hey, hi guys, how are you?
What's up, Joe?
Hey, you're absolutely right, and I want to plug our great coverage on Main Street Nashville. We had all 3 stories on this game, and there could have been 10 stories on this game because of all the things that happened. Sadly for Lipscomb fans, and most notably, was they blew a 12-point lead in the last 3.5 minutes, and Belmont scored on their last 7 possessions. Hit 7 straight shots, and then when they missed the 8th one, they get the offensive rebound. Isaiah Walker, he puts it back in. He gets fouled to tie the game, makes the free throw for the winning points. And after the game, Lenny Acuff, the Lipscomb coach, said, usually when a team comes back in that short amount of time, the team that's leading either like turns the ball over or misses free throws. And Lipscomb did neither. They just didn't make any shots, though, either. They really were one basket from winning the game, and they didn't get it in that time frame. And it's Isaiah Walker, the Belmont junior, who we spoke about a little bit with his strange-looking jump shot. He was 1 for 2 on threes last night, I think, and one went in. He went, "How did that go in?" But in their previous loss to Furman last Friday night, he had a 1-on-1 when they were leading by 1. Maybe leading by 2, and he missed it, and Furman hit a 3 to win the game. So redemption for him to hit this free throw to give them the winning points last night. Though I'll give – am I going on too much here?
No, go. No.
So I will give Lenny some great credit because there's 3 seconds left. They get the ball to half court. They call timeout. So now it's 1.4, and they inbound from the side in front of their own bench. They can't get it in the first time. They got to use their last timeout. They come out of the timeout, and they run a back screen, and Dylan Faulkner, their good sophomore center, Will Pruitt inbounding the ball, lobs it right up to the rim, and it just doesn't connect. I mean, I can't say if it was the pass or Dylan missed it, but it was there. All they had, if he could have caught it and dunked it, they would have won the game at the buzzer with a dunk, which would have been even more incredible finale for the Battle of the Boulevard.
It would have been. I saw the replay of the final play, and yeah, they just couldn't quite connect on the pass, but I think Faulkner got a hand on the ball, maybe 2 hands on the ball, just couldn't pull it down and put it through. But that would have been, even for a matchup as storied as this one, to win it on a oop dunk, on the inbounds, to win it by 1, that would have been another chapter that may never be challenged. But as it was, like you said, Belmont coming back from 12 points down to win it 80-79 at Allen Arena. That's what this matchup has been all about. And like you said, it's a tough loss for Lipscomb, obviously, but just in terms of chapters in this rivalry, it's another great one.
Mo, let me ask you a question. Is it too early to play this game? November 12th, we have the Battle of Boulevard.
It might be a little early, but given, both of these teams' conference obligations and that kind of thing, I'm not sure that the schedule would allow it to be played any later. I think I'd love to see it after Christmas when both of these teams really know a little bit more about themselves and that kind of thing, and can maybe be even more competitive. I think it's going to be competitive whenever they play, but I think both Lenny and Casey are really kind of figuring out who their teams are right now. And so I think later in the year would be better, but I don't know that later in the year is really an option.
That's me being old school now, Mo.
It also real quick, feels like it's too early if you're only going to play the one time now.
Mm-hmm.
If we were doing a dip, you can get away with this, but this early, I'm with you guys, man. It adds to the excitement because you kind of got the unknown factor. You don't know what both teams have really just yet, but then also later in the year, you're like, man, I kind of wish I had a Battle of the Boulevard right about now.
It was a great crowd last night too. Very, very intense atmosphere in Allen Arena, and it added to the intensity of the game without doubt.
Given the play that Lenny and Lipscomb got there at the end, what was the level of disappointment on their part? Again, it wasn't like they blew the game. They just stopped making shots down the stretch.
They were crushed. Lenny after the game even said it's going to be a sleepless night. And I talked to Will Pruitt after the game because I wanted to know how he saw the final play. And, Will's a quiet guy, but I could just tell he was so downcast and upset about the loss. And they took it pretty hard. And, it's the rivalry and it's the type of season they could potentially have. This is a game that they had won. If you watch the whole game, they're the better team, except for that last 3 minutes. So it's I don't want to say Belmont was an undeserving winner. That's not correct. But Lipscomb outplayed them for most of the game. And even Casey Alexander, the Belmont coach, he said that,
Well, sometimes you win games you're not supposed to win.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes you lose games you're not supposed to lose. And it sounds like that's kind of the way it went.
And now you know what happens to Lipscomb. So Sunday afternoon, they go to Western Kentucky. And next Tuesday, they go to Kentucky. So they are staring down really two tough games. We're going to shorten that, Mo, to like, about 50 miles to hate Lipscomb in Western Kentucky?
It's a little closer. I don't know that Lipscomb hates Western as much as Middle does, though.
Yeah.
So it might just be 50 miles of strong dislike. Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, talking a little local basketball. Other than the Battle of the Boulevard, what else have you observed here in the last few days locally?
Well, I'm going to I got it. Vanderbilt on Sunday. It's against Southeast Missouri, but again, they just looked really like a team with a lot of potential and a well-coached team. And as we've discussed many times, just a higher level of talent on the team. However, they're not big, and so I still have those concerns. But I think they're playing really great for the situation. In other words, a whole new team just beginning. They're playing at a pretty high level for that. I think the Vanderbilt fans should be very optimistic about Mark Byington coaching at their school because this is the start. If he digs in a few more years, I think we're going to see some winning basketball in the West End. They have Cal tonight. So
what do we know about Cal?
Big nerd battle tonight, Joe.
What do you call that?
Big nerd battle between two 2-0 teams, right?
It is a nerd battle. You're right. So they have the college bowl like TV show first, and then they go to the basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
It is it's a winnable game for Vanderbilt at home. They should say. I don't think Cal has been awful the last few years. Mark Madsen, the former Laker, is now their coach. And this is his second year, and he's improved the team. But I still think this is a game that Vanderbilt can get on their home court.
Mark Madsen,
yeah,
former Stanford guy, right?
That's right.
Was he not? Okay, all right.
Yeah, he's a Cal now.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Money talks, I guess.
And this is an ACC SEC matchup now.
Yeah.
Man, you guys, it's kind of tough to remember all that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
That one, that's another one that will throw you for a loop in terms of, you're not used to seeing a guy being the head coach in that regard. Feels like he was just playing or, was just on a roster.
Was just there we go. Yeah.
Joe, I wanted to ask you real quick, a little bit outside of Nashville, but what can you tell us about Austin Peay and their win over Butler the other night? And is that the signature win in the area for our squads in your mind thus far?
Yeah, it looks like it might be. And did you see their coach, Corey Gibson, I believe? Am I saying that right? Corey Gibson. He now wears battle fatigues on the sideline.
Yeah, he's the camo guy.
I thought it was a one-time deal, but apparently he's been doing it. And he has a transfer for NC State. I think LJ Farmer is his name. Might get LJ Thomas. I'm sorry. Is a transfer for NC State. He's been over 20 points in a couple of games. So he looks like he's going to be an impact transfer at Austin Peay. And they're obviously dangerous. The Atlantic Sun, which I think we were all kind of thinking Lipscomb would have their way in that league this year. But now we have North Florida, which has already won at South Carolina and Georgia Tech. They lost to Georgia last night, but they're going to be good. And then North Alabama is unbeaten also. So I think those are the four teams in the mix in the Atlantic Sun, and I think Lipscomb's going to be challenged by those three.
Yeah, and kind of just circling back real quick, you mentioned how tough that game was last night, and the schedule with Western and Kentucky both on the road these next couple of nights. In your mind, deep down, is that surely that's not a season-defining moment just yet, right? I mean, surely even though they've got two really tough ones on the road, these guys, it appears they've been playing so well, especially down low. The big guy's been dominating for Lipscomb. So
Jacob Avnatovich.
Avnatovich, I was hoping you'd bail me out with the pronunciation there.
Yeah, he had. I'm just double checking. He had 28 last night, and he was tough to handle for Belmont. He was scoring inside and out. He's kind of awkward in his demeanor. He's not a smooth player, but he can shoot and he can score, and he's tough. Look, what Lipscomb can hope for is maybe winning at Western. It's possible. I don't think they're winning at Kentucky. I think Kentucky. I'm a big Mark Pope fan. And we saw they beat Duke last night. I was
going to say, you're not saying that after last night, are you?
No,
you're not hopping on the bandwagon late. Okay, good.
I'm on board with Mark Pope when he got hired. I think he's going to be great. He might be better than the last guy. So it's. I expect Kentucky to be a juggernaut, and he's just getting started. Very much like Mark Byington, he has a roster that's not sensational, but give him time. He'll upgrade that over the few years. But the way they play is exciting. It's the modern style of basketball. Mo and I may not like it. I'm sorry, Mo. Can I adopt you?
You absolutely.
Just too many threes, and it becomes a lot of the same high pick and roll stuff that sometimes I wish the 3-pointer didn't exist, but it does, and you need to acknowledge that and play that way. And Mark Pope does, and Kentucky will. So I really think that's going to be a long Tuesday night for Lipscomb up there.
I think there are probably more Mark Pope fans this morning than there were yesterday morning. Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Joe, are you going to the Glass House tonight?
I am not, Mo. That now I have an event I want to plug tonight, Mo. This is you've
Oh,
given
that's
me,
right. That's
you've
right.
given me
Yeah.
my opening.
There we go. Where are you
So
going
I'll
tonight,
be at the
Joe?
Glass House. I'll be at the Glass House on Saturday when they play Murray State, which I think
Murray.
is going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Saturday afternoon at the Glass House, and we can get back to the Blue Raiders in a second. But I just want to tell listeners about an event I'm hosting tonight at Belmont. It's in the Jack Massey Building, the 1890 Theater, and we're going to be talking about women's sports. We have a panel discussion. The great Teresa Walker, who's an often guest of yours, is part of our panel, and we're going to be discussing the evolution of women's sports and the empowerment of women's athletes around a new book that's out called Layer Upon Layer by Dee Dee Horton, who unfortunately passed away from cancer while she was just finishing the book up.
Oh,
And
goodness.
She's a former D1 basketball player and coach, and it's a novel, but it very much touches her real experience as a player and coach, and about relationships within her life, fictionalized, but still a book that many athletes, especially women athletes, will find interesting, and they will recognize the situations in the book. So we hope to have a great discussion tonight, and thank you for letting me tell people about it. Come on. Does this come? If you're not going to the Vanderbilt Cal game or the Glass House tonight, come on over.
You know, I wish I had known about this. I do have other plans tonight, unfortunately, but this is something that I would have been interested in.
We'll get you a
very
copy
intriguing.
of the book, Mo.
Yeah, I'll have to do that for sure. That's Teresa had something on her socials earlier on this, and
Yeah.
I was not familiar with it, but man, that's really a compelling story, especially with the author Dee Dee Horton, unfortunately passing away.
Yes,
in
and
the
so her husband
process.
David finished the book up, did an epilogue, and he will be there tonight too to speak about his late wife and the book she wrote. So it
Hey,
should be
real
a
quick,
very
is that a
interesting event.
ticketed event, or give us
No,
just some
free.
quick
Walk
other
right in.
details? Okay.
No tickets. Come on in. We'd love anyone to come and join the discussion, and we're looking for it to be a discussion.
What time does it start?
Starts at 6.
Okay. All right. If y'all don't have anything to do, or if you do have something to do, go anyway. So yeah.
So back to Middle Tennessee.
Yeah.
So how about that road win at Abilene Christian? Like, a lot of people may look at that and say, no, that was they crushed them. And
Yeah.
Justin Porter with another 20+ game. I'm warming to the idea that he's going to have some senior season. He just looks like he is ready to roll. You see that sometimes, guys reach the end and all of a sudden they jump up and have great final seasons. That doesn't always happen. And I get the sense that he's ready to roll.
I think maybe the bigger impact from Saturday, though, than JP and his big night was probably Jalen Counter coming off the bench and scoring 15 as he starts to, get his minutes count up.
Yeah, so he's going to be, he may not start, but he's certainly going to be playing at the end of games and starter minutes as he can play point guard and he can play off the ball. He was the leading scorer at IUPUI last season, and not a great team, but I know Nick has really, when I asked Nick, what's been surprising about the who's emerged from the transfers, who's been surprising. And of course they do have Kamari Lands, who hasn't done much yet, but they're expecting big things from him. But Counter is the one he loves, and he's going to play a lot. So it's a good point by you, Mo.
Hey, to that point, and we mentioned I dabble in the nerd realm as well, Joe, but it's worth pointing out, I know it's early in the season, but MTSU is close to cracking in the top 100 in KenPom already.
I didn't notice that. Really? That's fantastic.
Yeah, they're 136, and the CUSA is pretty well represented. La Tech, Liberty, and Sam Houston all went in the top 120, but MTSU's right there at 136, which may not sound like much, but considering, where we are and kind of where MTSU has been, that feels at least notable at this point early in the season.
Yeah, it's look, that puts you, you're in the top 40% of teams or so around there. I'm not doing the math. I'm just guessing off the top of my head. But there's 360 schools, and if you're 136, that's you're doing well. And they can improve upon that. I think they are sneaky good, sneaky interesting this season. I'm really looking forward to see what they do against Murray, who I think Murray is going to be good this year too in the Missouri Valley. When I did the Missouri Valley poll, I voted in it. I had Murray third. So I think this is the first of many good tests for Middle Tennessee, including we can look ahead. There's a Lipscomb game. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but Lipscomb at Middle is going to be another good game too.
December 19th. December 19th. We got a little ways to get to that one. MTSU might be in the top 80 of the Ken Pom by them if this keeps up.
Lipscomb really challenges itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. And they're right there. And to your point, Murray, it feels like they always are going to be in the mix. Even in their down years, it doesn't feel like they're really that far down.
Yeah.
Is that Middle's last game before Christmas? I'm kind of feeling like it might be.
No, they play at Tennessee December 23rd, Mo.
That's right. There we go.
Well, can you imagine if they're really rolling and they go into that game? It's
I'll tell you what,
I don't want to get you too excited, but
yeah, this middle schedule, this pre-Christmas schedule, like you said, they've got Murray on Saturday. We've talked to Chip about playing Ohio University on Thursday.
Well, that's in the tournament. They're in the Myrtle Beach tournament, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's a tough tournament. It's not going to be easy.
And Ohio, for whatever reason, has had Middle's number for quite some time, as Chip was pointing out when we spoke with him. They go to UAB on December 1st. They go to Belmont on December 7th. And then, like you said, they've got Lipscomb on the 19th and at UT on the 23rd before they break for Christmas. So
a lot of interesting games for the MTSU fans to get on board.
For sure. Absolutely. This feels like it's going to be one of Nick McDevitt's better editions since taking over for Kermit Davis. So certainly something to keep an eye on. Joe Sullivan, you can find him again at Globe Sullivan. You can find his work at Main Street Nashville. Joe, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon, and enjoy this event this evening. It sounds like it's going to be a really good one.
Yeah, I'm not going to be my usual self. I'll have a nice suit on tonight, Mo. I know you were probably thinking that. I'm going to get dressed up for it.
Get somebody to take pictures. Joe, we appreciate it, man. All righty.
Thank you, Joe.
When we continue on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll talk a little college football. So stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yeah, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and let's talk a little college football because the playoff rankings and projected brackets came out last night, the second iteration of those. And no change at the top. Oregon's still number 1. Ohio State's still number 2. And the Buckeyes really ruining that idea that the top 4 champions get those buys because they're ranked number 2, but they're going to have to play an opening round game if this holds up as the number 5 seed. So, yeah, that's kind of the fallacy of this setup, I guess. But you get rewarded if you are a conference champion. And so I guess nobody took into account the possibility of the top 2 teams both coming from the same conference.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Ohio State, on one hand, you certainly are upset with the fact, which, I mean, obviously you beat Oregon in the championship game, and you don't really – well, first of all, you beat Indiana, then you beat Oregon. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to worry about too much. But
yeah,
like
then it's Oregon that has to worry about it.
Right. Or Indiana. I mean, depending on how this all plays out, one of those teams will be upset. But as we kind of pointed out, I mean, are you really potentially upset about hosting Boise State? I mean, if you have to play the opening round game at your place, you're at the crib versus Boise State, you got to like your chances. And then you, in theory, get the easiest draw in the quarterfinals. So right. 5 is, there's no way, obviously, to force or work your way into the 5 spot. But I think, if you're not going to be 1 or 2, maybe 5 is not necessarily the worst place to be.
5 may not be the worst place to be, especially looking at this week's rankings, because if you win that 5-12 game, then you play number 4, which in this case is Miami, which is ranked number 9. So, yeah, 5 may not be a bad place to be at all, and that's kind of what has been said all along, I think, once this setup was kind of established, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. But yeah, meanwhile, Tennessee at number 7 would be the number 8 seed in the bracket and would host Notre Dame in an opening round game. That's if this holds up. Again, this is projected. Again, there's still plenty of football to be played, including a certain matchup Saturday in Athens with said Tennessee. So, still a long way to go to get home here, but certainly worth talking about, I guess.
Yeah, and in Miami, certainly not out of the woods by any stretch. SMU is absolutely nipping at their heels, and the computers, which is kind of fascinating, right? I'm curious how they projected who would necessarily win these conference championships, because I'm looking at collegefootballnetwork.com, and SMU has a 40% chance of winning the ACC championship game. Miami is second in that scenario. Clemson slightly below them. Pittsburgh and Louisville pretty much eliminated at this point. But, this is all subject to change. Like we said, last week was kind of your first real peek behind the curtain, I guess. And then this week kind of comes into focus a little more. We've still got the big Tennessee-Georgia game with Georgia checking in at number 12. You would all but assume that if they lose that one, especially playing at home, that they go bye-bye. But we kind of get a little closer and a little closer. I think we got, 3 more rankings until we get to the end of the season. So still a lot to be determined here, both in terms of who gets in and then, of course, seeding.
As of right now, and again, there's still plenty of football to be played, but Georgia's kind of the odd team out following that 28-10 loss to Ole Miss this past weekend, because even though they are ranked 12th and Boise is 13th, Boise is the highest ranked group of 5 teams, so they get in, and it would be at Georgia's expense if the season ended today, as they say. So Georgia's still with a lot of work to do. I'm not interested enough in how it would play out if it happens to hope for it, but should Tennessee lose to Georgia, is Tennessee done with 2 losses?
Man, it's number one. That is a great question. And then obviously you still got Vanderbilt lurking out there at the end of the season, which who knows how that game could go. But I mean, Tennessee, man, think about it. I mean, their big win is, which Alabama is streaking, right? But Alabama is their biggest win, and they got a tough loss versus Arkansas. If you lose to Georgia, that loss to Georgia doesn't look quite as nice as it potentially would have looked a week ago.
Right.
And then who knows if what we saw last year with Florida State is the committee does take injury issues into play. If Nico is out for any extended period of time, perhaps maybe this week or beyond, I mean, that is a fair question. Is if Tennessee, with 2 losses, despite having a really good season, if they're on the outside looking
in? Somebody's going to be, on the outside looking in with a really good record. And
sounds like college basketball, right?
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, again, this is all conjecture at this point. There's still plenty to figure out on the field, but you mentioned SMU. They're sitting right there at 14. Colorado up from 17 to 20. Again, in the next hour, we're going to be talking to Justin Adams of CBS Sports Colorado to kind of handicap their situation. They're the number 2 team in the Big 12 right now, right?
Yeah, they control their own destiny. And all they got to do.
They're number 3 because Kansas State is right above them at 16. So.
Well, they control their own destiny with the 1 loss, I guess, where I was going with that, because you win out. Now, granted, Kansas is playing some phenomenal ball. They got them next week. But before you even worry about Kansas, you got to beat Utah. So if Colorado can get by Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State, I mean, it's Utah and Colorado and BYU for that berth, and BYU certainly wouldn't need it as much as you would think that Colorado would already with a couple of losses.
Utah might be a little easier handle for Colorado with the news coming out of there now that quarterback Brandon Rose suffered a season-ending injury in that Holy War loss to BYU over the weekend. A lower leg injury. Is expected to be out for 6 to 8 months. This is the third quarterback the Utes have lost this season. Obviously, Cam Rising has had hand and leg issues, and transfer Sam Heward from Washington has not played at all this year. So they are down to their number 4 signal caller, Isaac Wilson, the brother of former BYU and former Jet quarterback Zach Wilson. He's going to start against Colorado this weekend, and got lifted for performance issues. That's how Rose was in the game against BYU. Wilson has thrown for 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 8 picks in 7 games. He is one of 2 healthy quarterbacks on the roster at this point for Utah.
Yeah, I mean, things are setting up nicely. I mean, still beating Utah. At the end of the day, Colorado is kind of in uncharted territory, at least in recent memory, right? They're not used to being the favorites in these games. And so whether they win these games or not, they're going to get everybody's best effort, as we've seen. And so it's not as if Utah will just completely roll over, but you would assume, yeah, that they're going to be predicted to win that game, should probably win that game. And then you got Kansas, who's been playing better. That will be the real interesting one for me, because then at the end of the season, you got Oklahoma State, who has officially rolled over and died. The last I checked, I don't even know that they had won a Big 12 game this year.
I don't know that they have. At one point, they were one of 4 power conference members that had not won a conference.
Yeah, 0-7 in league play. So, I mean, this is for Colorado for the taking. Can you imagine? You got Travis Hunter potentially winning the Heisman. You got Colorado in the college football playoff. Hypothetically, as a top 4 seed, if they can keep winning out and beating BYU, things could get wild up in Boulder coming down the stretch here.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun visit in the next hour.
Exactly. It was not a fun Monday for the Utah athletics director, Mark Harlan, who made his feelings known after that 22-21 loss to BYU on Saturday night. He said the game was absolutely stolen from us. Apparently, there were penalties called on back-to-back plays against Utah that allowed BYU to score, to get the game-winning score in that one. And Harlan, in the post game, you don't often hear from ADs in post game, but he stepped to the dice and said, "This game was absolutely stolen from us. We were excited about being in the Big 12, but tonight I am not. We won this game. Someone else stole it from us. Very disappointed. I will talk to the commissioner. This was not fair to our team. I'm disgusted by the professionalism of the officiating crew tonight." And, as Mark Harlan was making these statements, he had to be figuring out, where exactly is my checkbook? Because I'm going to have to write one. Well, 24 hours later, that was a 40K rant for Mark Harlan. Mark's comments irresponsibly challenged the professionalism of our officials and the integrity of the Big 12 Conference. There is a right way and a wrong way to voice concerns. Unfortunately, Mark chose the wrong way. Accordingly, this violation warrants a public reprimand and a financial penalty. The Big 12 Conference prioritizes professionalism, integrity, and fairness, and we will continue to do that. So, that was from Brett Yormark, commissioner of the Big 12.
I mean, we can say this because we don't really run the risk of getting fined by the Big 12. But, I mean, they got hosed. And, Terry McCauley, he's chiming in and saying, that was a little suspect. I don't know what the crew was looking at down there. But I do find it fascinating that we got 2 things at play. Number one, we got Utah getting fined by the Big 12, which is just kind of weird to say out loud for the first time, really. And then number 2, we got our first real case of the Big 12 said, oh, no. We know our cash cow for this year for the playoff, and we're going to protect that bad boy. Kind of like what happened with Oregon. Oregon, for so many years, kind of used to getting a little bit of the raw end of the deal in the Pac-12. And now all of a sudden, versus Ohio State, they get away with a little gamesmanship at the end of the game. And all of a sudden it's like, ooh, okay, we kind of like being the cash cow of the Big Ten here. So BYU catching a little love from the Big 12, Utah catching a little fine from the Big 12, something neither one of us were prepared to really think about before all the realignment.
Rank does have its privilege, though, right?
Man, yeah. I mean, you got to protect those guys. I mean, because if it's not them, it's Colorado or bust. If you got something weird that happens, I mean, you're trying to keep BYU as elevated as possible, and they just continue. They just continue to find games. I mentioned, they've won some crazy games where they've been outgained by a wide margin. They've had some games where they won just a crazy amount of turnovers. They've had a lot of football turnover luck, and they just find a way to keep winning. And the Big 12 is like, we kind of like one of our teams being undefeated here.
So here's a question. If it's BYU and Colorado in the Big 12 championship game, Colorado wins, does BYU get in?
That is going to be a great question. If BYU is still undefeated, I don't see, man. I mean, we're talking SMU undefeated in their league, and they're still on the bubble. I don't know. I think BYU probably falls out.
They finished.
I think. I don't know. Sure, mate. I mean, this will obviously play itself out. We could see one of these teams fall by the wayside, but man, that would be a doomsday situation where you got. I mean, just like we talked about yesterday, is it better to play for the championship or not? If you're a team that obviously would stand to be eliminated from the playoff with a loss, then that situation right there, that would not be good.
Yeah. BYU finishes with Kansas this weekend, at Arizona State and against Houston. So, I mean, certainly finishing up undefeated is not out of reach for the Cougs.
One other thing, I forgot about this game because, like you said, we've slept since then, but way back on Labor Day weekend, BYU, think about this. At the time, we didn't think about it, but BYU going on the road and beating SMU, massive game, because now those two teams are two teams that if one thing goes against them, they're smack dab on the bubble. So that is a monstrous win, a quality win for some teams, in this top 12. Would probably kill to have a win like that on their resume.
It's a big win for BYU, and it's a tough loss for SMU. So, yeah.
Hey, real quick, before we dip, I got to ask you about this, Mo. We're talking undefeated teams. Did you see what Army did this weekend?
No.
Army had, let me pull up the exact numbers here. Army's fifth possession of the game, they walloped North Texas, which North Texas was only a small underdog in that game. Army ran a 21-play, 94-yard drive, 13 minutes, 54 seconds.
An entire quarter.
And that drive chart is a thing of beauty. Our good friend at the Citizen, Mark Mize, is a football nerd's nerd, and he was in hog heaven.
How many third downs did they convert?
I can't tell because this is like machine-like the way this they had a 5-yard run, a 3-yard run, a 5-yard run, a 3. I mean, it's 5, 5, 3, 3 all the way down the field.
Oh, nickel and diming you to death.
21 plays, 94 yards, and nearly 14 minutes off the clock.
13:54. Oh, if you're a defensive coordinator, you're just pulling your hair out, right?
Man, yeah. It's like, what on earth can we do as those guys remain undefeated?
That would be tough to watch if you are a fan of the defense. Yeah. Hour number 1 here on Wild and Wacky Wednesday on Main Street Sports Today. It's in the books. When we return to the Lee Company studios for hour number 2, it's the grab bag. We'll talk a little NBA among other things. So stay tuned when we come back after this.
Nashville's Nutcracker returns to TPAC this December, presented by Nashville Ballet. This holiday season, audiences will journey with Clara and the Nutcracker Prince through Nashville's history and the land of sweets. Tickets at NashvilleBallet.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today starts right now. I'm Maurice Patton, and that's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes. Wade just sent me this drive chart from this Army game, and I've got to be sure not to get distracted by that because we've still got an hour of show to go.
Chef's kiss.
But yes, I'm fascinated by this, man. Thank you for sharing it. Let's talk a little basketball, particularly of the professional variety at this point. Steph Curry likes ruining big moments for other teams, other folks, and it doesn't matter what allegiance he necessarily has to them, whether it be the French national team in the gold medal game of the Olympics or former teammate Klay Thompson making his return to the Bay Area because had a big night in the Warriors win last night over the Mavericks. A lot of feel good for Klay coming back to town, and Steph just shot all over that, I guess.
Yeah, it was I was following a little bit, and obviously, everybody's tuned in for the nostalgia factor, and a cup game last night. So, I mean, it wasn't just, your run-of-the-mill game as well. But, man, everybody's fired up. Everybody's in their feels. Clay has a pretty good game. And like you said, Curry just does what Curry does. Saw this stat. He's now the oldest point guard, I guess, in NBA history to have back-to-back 30-point games, which I didn't necessarily would think would ever be a stat that would get tracked or referenced. But he joins LeBron James and Michael Jordan as the only other 36-year-old with back-to-back 35-point games. So in case we thought Steph was, slipping, I guess he showed us a thing or two last night. But it was cool to see Clay back in the barn.
Yeah, Curry with 37 points, scored the last 12 in a 120-117 win, and yeah, I would have thought that Jordan and LeBron would be the other two guys upwards of that at that age, but Curry 14 of 27 from the floor, 5 threes. And yeah, again, Thompson coming back. Everybody's wearing captain's hats in tribute to him. I mean, it's supposed to be a nice little feel good night for him. He finishes with 22. And Curry says, forget all that. And just goes off as, again, only Curry can do. It's uncanny. I'd hate him.
Man, and they've been playing so well this season. We just talked with Withers yesterday on the show about how well Kerr has got this. I mean, you always wonder too, right? Coming off the Olympics, how teams or how guys or I guess even coaching staffs, how quickly they can kind of get back into things. But the Warriors have been on a tear in the Western Conference to start the season. And that was a good win for them. They're now tied with the Suns and the Thunder. If the season ended today, shout out. It'd be 1, 2, and 3 in those standings. All three teams tied at 9 and 2. That West is loaded, and those three teams are right there at the top.
More NBA news. Wade, what happens if you call a timeout that you don't have?
Well, that's a bit of a cheap shot, but I can tell you. And don't worry, because we got video for this. Bit of a cheap shot there for the old Michigan fan. It's okay, though. You got to do what you got to do. But, yeah, you get dinged, and there's a penalty you got to pay. And that occurred in real time last night.
You would think Eric Spoelstra would know that, wouldn't you?
Man, one of the great coaches, certainly in the modern era of the NBA, and that was an all-time stinker down the stretch from him last night.
They're down 18 to Detroit. Got back into the game, forced overtime, took a 2-point lead. And then Detroit scores to go up 2 with less than 2 seconds to play. Spoelstra calls a timeout. Miami is out of timeouts. Detroit hits a free throw. And that's a game winner, basically.
Yeah, and Spoelstra, man, he was
said, I mean, a guy who is supposed to be one of the best in the game right now. How do you do that?
He was holding back tears last night. No excuse for that. 17 years in, talked about it in the huddle, and I knew we didn't have anything. He says, and that is tough. And Mark, pull this up. I know this is why Mo mentioned this too. By the way, I appreciate that because it wouldn't be a full Michigan slander if Jalen Rose wasn't in the crowd last night, and that's his reaction watching. I mean,
it's time to be the man for this.
He's seeing ghosts.
Jalen Rose.
I mean, I'm having flashbacks myself just reading the headline. And
Jalen Rose.
Yeah,
That's rough.
That's tough for Jalen in particular. That's like how does this happen twice? Yeah, that's
And you know,
that's a tough way to lose a ball game.
Tough way to lose, of course. And then, you know, presumably at the NBA level as well. But I know, you know, for sure at the high school level and even the college level, the referees, they also make it abundantly clear to everybody what the timeout situation is.
You don't have any. Yeah.
And they go out of their way to let you know, even if you're calling one sometimes. You know, I've been on the sideline where the coach is trying to call one or a player is trying to call one. They're like, no, you don't have one. You don't have one. So you have to actively go above and beyond to kind of get the real attention of the officials. And Spoelstra, man, that is a tough way to go out, like you said, and in a loss to the Pistons. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying the officials might ignore you if you're trying to call one you don't have?
I've seen that happen. Certainly at the NAI level, they try and ignore you. They wave you off. They're like, coach, we're going to save you the embarrassment here. And you kind of actively have to get their attention before they'll ring you up.
Okay. You asked for it. Yeah.
Yep. You said you wanted a timeout many, many times. Well, guess what? We'll give you one. And unfortunately, we have to give you the technical that goes along with it.
Yeah. Joel Embiid came back last night. You know, we talked about him when we were talking to Tom Withers yesterday as well, because the Sixers played New York in the first of a back-to-back last night. Sixers lost 111-99. Embiid, 13 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. He was 2 of 11 from the floor. And after having said earlier in the year that he would probably never play back-to-backs the rest of his career, he is wanting to play tonight against Cleveland. Whether that's good or bad for Cleveland, I don't know, but he wants to.
Feels like Embiid just reacting to a stinker of a performance last night. I mean, it was an ugly game, but like you said, Embiid 2 of 11. This is the guy also that, you know, when he is in shape and when he's healthy, he can be one of the most dominant players in the league. But he also has to work himself back into shape. And not saying he was out of shape last night, but he certainly was not in form. And that was a rough go. So maybe a chance, you know, to try and redeem himself a little bit tonight if he ends up going.
Yeah, I mean, it was his first outing in their 10th game, I guess. So it would stand to reason that maybe he's not in the best of shape. I mean, there's only so much you can do to try to replicate game conditions and that kind of thing as it relates to your conditioning. So that's a tough go, but it'll bear watching to see whether or not Embiid goes against the Cavs tonight as the Cavaliers go for their 13th straight win to open the season. So a little story within the story there when those two teams play later tonight. Did you get a chance to see any of the Champions Classic doubleheader? I did not.
Did not. The only thing I was keeping up with was would Duke lose, and they did. Hunter Dickinson, former Michigan Wolverine, he had a great game for Kansas. That was a good win for them. Cooper Flagg, ball accounts, sounded like we got the tail of Cooper Flagg, and this is to be expected, right? You're talking about a kid fresh out of high school. Dominated the game for vast stretches of time, it sounded like, but then also kind of wilted down the stretch a little bit. That is a good win for Kentucky. Certainly feels like we haven't heard or seen the last of Duke in a big national high-stakes game. I think they'll be there right there in the mix later this year, but good win for Big Blue Nation. As you said, a lot of Pope fans waking up this morning.
No doubt. And, you know, I had a thought and I lost it just that quick.
That was the only thing that made Rose, and the Weber timeout situation last night feel a
easier to
little
take.
better was that, their arch rival, the
that
bane
Duke
of my
lost.
existence, that Duke lost. Yes.
USA, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not on Facebook much anymore, but I had to pop in for that one. That one's 10 plus years in the running. You gotta stick with a good thing.
Scrolling through Twitter as we are wont to do, the San Antonio Spurs announced earlier today Greg Popovich has been away from the team since he suffered a mild stroke earlier this month. There is no timetable for him to return to the sideline, but he is expected to make a full recovery. So during this time, the organization is grateful to the extended community for providing privacy and space to the Popovich family, the Spurs said. San Antonio plays visiting Washington tonight. This will be the 7th game that Pop has missed, with Mitch Johnson running things in his stead. So Pop recovering from a stroke, obviously wish him well. And, if he gets back to the floor, that'd be fantastic. But if he doesn't, that's perfectly fine too, as long as he gets healthy. So wish him the best. Would hate for that to be the way he goes out, if in fact it is, but his health is paramount in this situation. And so hopefully that will be the most important thing, and we'll see him get back to that. The Colts, Shane Steichen, is he gone at the end of the year or what? Because he has mishandled this quarterback situation in every way possible. Now that said, I don't know if it's him or if it's Chris Ballard, the GM, but this thing has been a mess. I mean, if you think the situation with Will Levis has been bad, Anthony Richardson is expected to start this weekend against the Jets and the remainder of the year. He will be our starter again. He's going to start this week, and he's going to start the rest of the season, and we're going to go from there, said Steichen, after yanking Richardson and sticking Joe Flacco under center for the last 2 games, both of which were losses, I believe.
Yeah, we talked about them, maybe trying to make a playoff push. And I guess technically they're still trying to do that. But if that was a benching or a quote unquote soft suspension, okay, that's one thing. But if it was a benching to legit try and make some hay in the AFC standings, that part failed miserably. And now you're in a big old mess. And to answer your original question, today it feels like he's good, but I mean, Jim Irsay is the owner. So you never know. Jeff Saturday, come on down 2.0. I mean, it feels like at any point in time, things could get dicey there. And the Colts, I mean, that's the thing we talked about a couple weeks ago, right? If you're making this push, maybe they fell in love with what Flacco did in Cleveland last year. And that was such an odd situation. And just nothing about the Colts really gives you vibes that they are really capable of making a deep run. So I don't know. Everything about that situation has been weird from the jump, including this. Yeah. Although Flacco was horrible. Those are 2 of the worst games we've seen Flacco in the last several seasons, which is obviously made that decision a little easier, presumably.
Well, it made it a little easier, but it also makes you wonder, why, what was it that gave you so much faith in Flacco to start with? So
that's what I'm saying. If you were mad that he checked out of the game, just go out and say that.
It would have made this a lot easier, I think, if that had been the direction that you had gone in with it. So,
which by the way, shout out to our boy Ben Arthur. Here's what he's had to cover the last couple of weeks. The Texans have lost 2 in a row. The Colts have lost 3 in a row. The Titans are the Titans, but they technically have only lost 1 in a row. And then the Jags have lost 3 in a row. So that is a ugly, ugly division. And the Colts, who I've mentioned, they almost beat the Texans earlier this year. I mean, if that game had flipped, they'd be right there in this South race. And I mean, I guess technically they still are. The Titans are technically only 3 games back in the division.
Isn't that something?
And I mean, the Texans are good. They've had some really unfortunate luck. Still not sure if a 58-yard field goal attempt was maybe the right call on Sunday. They've lost now to the Jets and the Lions. Got to go to Dallas on Monday Night Football this week. The Titans still get them twice. They're done with the Colts, though. They've swept them, so that's the only good news. But it feels like Indy's kind of just in toiling in mediocrity right now.
Yeah. Former Florida Gulf Coast women's basketball coach Carl Semesco is the new coach of the Atlanta Dream of the WNBA.
It's not a name I had on my bingo card.
Not a name that, and understandably so, since Florida Gulf Coast was 2 games into their season when Semesco told those young ladies this morning that he was leaving. I'm a big fan of the WNBA, and I've always been intrigued by the possibility of coaching at that level. I got a phone call that they were interested in speaking to me, and I just had a great conversation with the GM and the owner, and it seemed like everything was aligned, and I thought it was an opportunity that I couldn't really pass up. Yikes. I followed the WNBA pretty closely, so I was aware of all the openings. I really didn't think anything would come of it in terms of me being involved, but when I got the call, I was definitely eager to listen. And then when it was Atlanta and some of the talent they have on that team, I became even more excited about it. Semesco has led Florida Gulf Coast from Division II play into D1. I believe are they in the ASUN as well?
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, you wake up in the ASUN and you go to bed in the WNBA.
Yeah.
Interesting move. And I love that quote, by the way. I'm a big fan of the WNBA. It almost sounds like, well, I mean, we're big fans of the WNBA too. I mean, we're not getting knocks on the door to go coach franchises.
Well, we've not won 611 games either, with 45 straight 25-win seasons. His overall winning percentage is 3rd among active D1 coaches behind Gino and Kim Mulkey. So, and he's 54. So, I mean, I guess the reality of it is, from the Atlantic Sun, he might have done about all he could do at Florida Gulf Coast. So maybe this is the next best thing for him. But
I mean, everything seems good. Just the timing is obviously just what's very
horrible
bizarre about this. If this was, in the offseason, we'd be saying, man, that's great. This is a good fit for him, good fit for them. And FGCU can find somebody else, but now it's kind of a big old stickiness.
Yeah, they had an associate head coach, Chelsea Lyles, who will ascend to that spot. And I guess given the timing, that was about all they could do, really. But, that's the direction they're going to go in. So be interesting to watch. I'm not sure why he necessarily had to go now, considering that they don't play until what, May? So that'll be something to keep an eye on as Florida Gulf Coast makes its way through the season. So we will see how that goes with him and Ron Howard and the Atlanta Dream. There's another job filled in the WNBA. I think they're down to 4 vacancies now, maybe. So we'll see. Let's take a break here on Wild and Wacky Wednesday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back to the Lee Company studios, we'll be joined by CBS Sports Colorado's Justin Adams. Talk a little more Colorado. Stay tuned after the break.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
He shoots, and he scores!
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
As it continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will give you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe, so be sure and stick around for that. Right now, though, we are joined by CBS Sports Colorado's Justin Adams, who apparently is on the move. Where are you headed, Justin?
You know what? It's funny. I'm actually going home to pick up my son from school, so I'm going to pick him up, and we're going to have some fun. And before I went there, you guys are actually saving me because I was going to go to the Nike outlet store and buy a little something. And you know, you don't need to go and buy you some, especially with the holidays running around the corner. So save your money because somebody else is going to use it anyway.
You know, there you go. You are welcome. I have been put on shopping hiatus. Basically, once it becomes November, it's like you can't shop after that because everything you buy is something that somebody else might be thinking about getting you. So yeah, I kind of take note of what I might want, and if I don't get it for Christmas, then I'll run out and get it afterwards. But yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we are happy to help you out, and we are happy to have you help us out because we wanted to talk about Colorado as the Buffaloes continue to surge, and you know, Dion continues to kind of give it the "how you like me now" kind of thing, as only Dion can. So.
Yeah, guys, it is. You talk about wild and wacky. Did you think that in the second week of November, we'll be talking about the Colorado Buffaloes, not only with a chance to get to the conference championship game or even win the conference championship game, but be in the college football playoff and, oh, by the way, have a bye to get to the college football playoff? Like nobody could have thought that last year when they were 4-8. For dang sure, nobody thought about that when they were 1-11, and everybody could beat them. Heck, there were some high school teams out there that could beat them. Okay, so to see the transformation that's happening right now in Boulder is one of the greatest stories that we have seen in college athletics. I would say in the last couple of decades.
And as Wade has said on this show, they control their own destiny.
Yep. 100%. They control their own destiny. Needed a loss from Iowa State last week, was able to go and get that as Kansas was able to get the job done. So now it's pretty much set for the Buffs. You win your last 3 games, you get to the Big 12 championship game, you win that game, and then you will be in the college football playoff. And to be honest with you guys, if you're able to beat an undefeated BYU, let's say BYU does stay undefeated, you beat an undefeated team, there's no reason why you shouldn't be one of the top 4 seeds in the college football playoff. So you're talking about a team that people would have just been happy if they would have got to a bowl game and you would have got to maybe a bowl in December 20th, or maybe you were able to go and sneak into a bowl game after Christmas. We're talking about a football team that could be in the Fiesta Bowl. You know what I mean? Like those type of bowls, like that's just something that is wild and wacky. It has to be on a Wednesday. I'll put it that way.
There we go. We like that. How comfortable is Colorado Athletics Director Rick George, though? Because as Colorado's profile continues to elevate, Colorado's coach's profile continues to elevate. His alma mater is not doing very well. His name has been mentioned with a certain former professional team that he has an allegiance to. Now, I know he said, I'm happy where I'm at, but what do you feel like his status is?
Well, anything could change, right? Because I'm happy where I'm at too, but if somebody triples my check, I'll be happily leaving right now. That's what I tell you, okay? The reality is that when you think about Rick George, he will always have some sort of PTSD, and it has to do with what happened with Mel Tucker. Remember, Mel Tucker was on the job for 1 season, finished his first year with the Colorado Buffaloes, and then in the offseason came out with a statement saying that he wasn't going anywhere. That was on Saturday. By Tuesday, he was on a private jet headed his way to East Lansing, Michigan, okay? So I think there's always one thing where he's always checking in. Hey, are we good? Is there anything we need to do? I believe in the contract, it does state that they will look at redoing his deal, and so that's one thing to keep an eye on. But I believe this. I don't know too many universities that will say we're going to give up all the different things and the control that the University of Colorado has given up, and then say, hey, like a Tennessee, for example, we're going to give up all this control so that you could be able to coach us, right? I don't think you're going to see that somewhere else. Obviously, there's always somebody who will say, you know what, we're desperate enough and we'll let you do that. But to me, when I look at what Coach Prime Deion Sanders has put together in Colorado, the question really is, why would you want to leave? You have the infrastructure there. Now you're starting to get the recruiting there. Don't get me wrong, Shadur's leaving, Shiloh's leaving, Travis is leaving. But now you're going to start to get those recruits, and you can start to get those transfers. And oh, by the way, you're not coaching in the SEC or the Big Ten, where you have to play the Michigans, Ohio State, everybody in the SEC every year. You got to take down Utah. You have to take down BYU, those type of teams. If you're looking for a faster way to get to the college football playoff, every year, you got to do it the way that Clemson did, Dabo Swinney did. You stay in where you're at, and you become the top dog in your conference. You build up your team to be able to compete with the top tier of the nation, and then you go get the job done, and you win a couple of national championships just like Dabo did.
Justin, I got to ask you, thank you for being here again with us. We spoke to you last before the Rocky Mountain Showdown, and at that time, I think everybody thought Colorado would beat Colorado State, but it was certainly up for grabs. And then you point to, a lot of folks point to, at least I do, the Baylor game. Is it as simple as the team just rallying around and winning that game the way that they did in overtime? Because since then, other than the blemish to Kansas State, which I watched was an electric game right there to the finish, this is a totally different team. And there's no real way for me to put it into words, but they're playing at a different level, and I can't figure out how to explain it. I'm hoping you can.
Well, it really started actually in the second half against Nebraska. They were getting beat up in the first half against Nebraska. They were down 28-0. Nothing was going their way. But in the second half, something changed. They were able to shut out Nebraska. Now, I get it. People will say, okay, well, Nebraska stopped playing, and, that's why they won 28-10. But Nebraska wasn't able to get themselves back in the end zone. There was one play where they did score on a long run, but that came back due to a holding penalty. That's where everything actually started with this team, because they got out of this 5 wide receiver set. They started bringing in a tight end on offense, and they started to get better on the offensive line. Now you're talking about a true freshman and a guy like Cash Cleveland, who's able to come in and just play great. You're talking about a true freshman able to step in at Texas Tech and do a great job blocking. So you have a lot of different pieces that are put together. I will say this about that game against Baylor. It gave this team a rallying cry to know that we can actually do this together. That was the biggest thing about the win against Baylor. And it was done in a fantastic way in the rain. You had your superstar players show up. LaJonte Wester with a great catch. Travis Hunter with a fumble right at the goal line, right? So anytime you have those type of things happen, you start to pack the wins, and guys start to believe that you have a team that's 7-2 looking at going to 8-2 this weekend.
I'm also curious. We spoke about the woes, quote unquote, of the rushing game. And this is a team that still only rushed for 700 yards as a team. Has Colorado just embraced, hey, we're just not going to be able to run the ball. And when we do, it just needs to be very sporadic. And they've just gone all in. Have they shifted in your mind and embraced that new role of just, hey, we're just content to let Shedeur drop back and just throw it 50 times a game almost?
Well, guys, look at the game that they lost. What's the only game that they lost after Nebraska? Kansas State.
K-State.
How much did they rush for that game? -26 yards. I said again, -26. I don't know how you moonwalk like that, okay, on the football field, but that's what happened, right? So they went from that point, and there was a video, well-off video, where offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur pointed out and said, we are going to run the football. Well, then you take on teams like Arizona. You're able to run the football, right? You start to get that going at least a little bit, right? You get a little juice. Play Cincinnati, you do the same thing. I think what we need to look at is that this is not going to be a team that will go in an I formation and run the football, right? There won't be an offset I team with a fullback in the backfield and run the football. They just got to run the ball enough. This is an enough team, okay? You got to be careful with the numbers, because people will say, if you look at the numbers, they don't run the football. It's not that they don't run the football. It's that they run the football enough to offset the defense, say we could play 8 guys back, and then you just can't throw. They're just going to say, if we have a matchup where it's 5-on-5, 5 in the box, even 6 in the box, we should be able to run the football there. So if you can run the ball enough, get a couple of first downs with the running game, what does it open up? It opens up your wide receivers. It opens up those passing lanes. That's what this is all about with this team. It's not about trying to go and say we got Ricky Williams in the back, right? Or we got a great running back, right? It's all about saying we're going to do just enough to control the clock, but to also set up those 2nd down and 7, 3rd down and 5 to give us those opportunities to be able to throw the ball down the field with some great opportunities and some better down and distances to do so.
And real quickly, to your point, also, Shedeur Sanders, 70 attempts. He's -2 yards, but, I mean, obviously the majority of those have been from sacks, including that negative rushing performance, as you mentioned, versus Kansas State. It seems like the offensive line playing better as well.
They are. I mean, you got some guys who are really getting together. Your guard play is better. Obviously, Jordan Seaton has been tremendous on the left side. And anytime you get a true freshman, again, another true freshman who shores up one side of the field for you, you know that your blind side will always be taken care of. Well, you can step up in the pocket and throw the ball, right? Shadeur's not running around like he did last year, right? Because last year he was running for his life. And to be honest, think about it this time last year. He's played against Oregon State where he gets knocked out the game, where he comes back, but he's limping all over the place, right? UCLA, he's getting beat up. He can't even get into his drop, and he's already being hit, right? And he's beat up so much to the point where he can't play the final game of the season against Utah. Now he's thriving. Now he's being able to throw the ball pretty well down the field. And even though he didn't throw for 300 yards last week, he still had 4 total touchdowns. So as long as you can keep him upright, as long as you can keep him clean, the Buffs will always have a chance to be able to win against anybody they play against.
Justin, it sounds like the offensive line is playing better, but your scheme and your play calling is taking a little bit better care of your offensive line as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're able to move around a little bit. Here's a play that I love that I saw a couple of weeks ago when they played against Cincinnati. You had Jordan Seaton, your left tackle, come on a pull in order to go and block the D end, and that sprung for a touchdown, right? Isaiah Gustav was able to go and score a touchdown based off of that. I think he actually went to the second level, went to a linebacker. But anytime you have those type of things, you have a different variety in your rushing attack, a little bit of zone concept as well. Well, that means that you're doing some great things on the offensive line, and that's good play calling. It's not just say, hey, snap the ball to Shador, and we'll see what happens. You allow your offensive line to be able to do the one thing they love to do the most, and that's attack. Let the fat boys eat. Maurice, you got to put that on a T-shirt, okay? Let the fat boys eat, because when they go out and eat, they will protect you better. That's really what this rushing attack is all about.
You know, when you look at this Colorado schedule, again, as Wade has said, Colorado controls their own destiny. They've got Utah this weekend. Utah's down to their fourth quarterback. You go to Kansas, which is playing some pretty good ball all of a sudden, but still, that's a very winnable game. And then you've got Oklahoma State coming to your place. Oklahoma State still hasn't won a conference game yet. So not only do they control their own destiny, but the challenges are not that great. It doesn't seem like.
It doesn't seem that way, but I tell you what, that game against Kansas, and I've been talking about it. I play for the Buffs. It's something weird about Kansas. Now, the game will be at Arrowhead Stadium because they're doing some renovations in Lawrence for the football stadium. But even with that being said, it's just a weird place to play. And you know what? Kansas is playing a lot better football. They lost a very close game on the road against Kansas State. They were able to dominate Iowa State. I don't care what that final score says. They dominated Iowa State when Kansas was at home. Now you think about this team that, for Kansas, if you win the rest of your games, you go to a bowl game, and they're getting healthy right now. So for the Buffs, you're going to have to walk into a very difficult place to play. You'll play at Arrowhead Stadium. We'll see if it'll be a Buffs contingent that will be there. Hopefully it will, because that will help out a lot. But that's an offense that is going to be very difficult to match up against. So if you're Colorado, what do? You just say, hey, 1-0 every week. You do what you have to do against Utah. Win that game against a very physical team, albeit very injured team, but still physical. They still want to get after you. Win that game at Folsom Field. Then you go up against Kansas, and that's going to be an offensive shootout. You got to find a way how to get that W there. Then on a short week, you're able to play Oklahoma State, like you say, that hasn't won a conference game, but you have guys who will be out there saying, this is the last time I'll be able to play football. So they'll come with that hunger. But if you're able to win those 3 games, guys, think about this. You get an extra day of preparation for the Big 12 championship game. And you know this type of year, if you could get any leg up, any opportunity to get that extra day, especially where both teams have to travel to Dallas for that game, you'll take it in a heartbeat. So hopefully the Buffs can be able to go and get the job done and also use that extra day to their advantage.
Justin Adams of CBS Sports Colorado joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Justin, we appreciate your insight. And, when you do go to the Nike outlet, I wear a 10.5. Just keep that in mind. So.
Brother, I think your partner had one more question before we run off.
Well, I was just going to say, Justin, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you, what do the final 3 weeks of the season need to look like for Travis Hunter to bring home the Heisman?
Win. It doesn't need to look like anything else other than winning, because what he'll do is the proof's to put it on the field anyway. He's going to get catches. He's going to get touchdowns. He's not going to get the ball thrown his way, right? I mean, it just is what it is. So you just win. And if you people say get to the Big 12 championship game, I say win the Big 12 championship game. Leave absolutely no doubt, because if you're able to go and win that game, then you're not just talking about a Heisman season and congratulations on being the Heisman this year. You will have to put down, guys, and I mean this, one of the greatest seasons in college football history. You will have to put it up there. And it's indisputable. You can talk about whatever stat you want, but anytime you have somebody who's able to star on both the offense and defense and be top 5 in both areas, then you got to say it's one of the best seasons of college football history.
There you go. Wade, you got anything else? I didn't mean to jump you there. But.
No, that was it. I mean, to your credit, it seems like Ward is kind of taking a hit, obviously, with his loss last week. Dylan Gabriel is the number. I mean, if you want to just go with the traditional formula of the best player on the best team, he fits that mold, but his numbers are not just eye-popping. So, I mean, what Travis Hunter is doing is special. And to your point, Justin, the wins that are potentially still out there and that come along with it, it seems like almost a no-doubter if that happens.
And the narrative is there, guys. I mean, this is a great story. You're talking about a team like, and it's not just a team where Travis Hunter came, right? It would be different if you say, well, he transferred in this year and the team did great. That would be one thing. But Travis Hunter came off the heels of the team being 1-11, suffered the first year where the team was 4-8, and now you have this team potentially going to the Big 12 championship game, winning the conference, and getting to the college football playoff while you play on both sides? Are you kidding me? Like, what other story do you have to say right there? I mean, it just writes for itself. And by the way, Wade, I got you in the outlet too.
Thank you. I'm right there at a 10.5 as well. So
hey, I tell you what, Wade is a shoe dude, man. You might be better just staying with me. But
how deep? You said triple your salary earlier, so I'm taking you up on that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. When I say triple, that means the wife takes about 3/4 of that triple. So I'll see if I can get you some socks. We'll hook you up.
We'll work on that.
Justin, we appreciate it, man. Be safe. We'll talk to you soon.
You as well, fellas. Always a blessing. Hey, thank you so much for having me out, guys. Be blessed.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Hey, when we come back to the Lee Company Studios on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. It's time for Wade and I to bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Stay tuned for that after this.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
It's the final segment of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're coming to you from the Lee Company Studios, and I want to do something that I mean to do every Wednesday and forget. Be sure, get you a quick break, get you something to drink, get you a snack. Come back right here in an hour, 5 o'clock. Check out the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show, starring me and Wade, as we talk about high school football across Giles, Lawrence, and Murray counties. We will get you caught up on round 1 of the state playoffs and get you ready for round 2 as it relates to our area teams. So again, be sure and check out the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show at 5 o'clock on these same airwaves. Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Where should we start for our wildness and wackiness? Let's start in South Carolina.
Okay.
Last week, I think it was either last Thursday or Friday, right after our last installment of Wild and Wacky, 43 rhesus monkeys escaped from a medical research facility, Alpha Genesis facility in Yemassee, South Carolina. 43 monkeys escaped. Apparently, an employee left a gate up, didn't fully lock an enclosure on November 6th. So this would have been on Wednesday. Didn't make the news until Thursday, I guess. Of the 43 monkeys that escaped, 32 have been recovered, including 2 yesterday. that were eating PB&J sandwiches and appeared to be in good health. A group of monkeys remains outside the fence close to traps set up by the company in the woods around the compound. They can be heard cooing by the employees monitoring, so they can hear the monkeys. They just can't get them regathered, apparently. But this facility is about 15 miles northeast of Savannah. The monkeys are the size of a cat. They are all females. I'm not sure what exactly that means. They pose no risk to public health, allegedly. The facility breeds the monkeys to sell to medical facilities and other researchers. Okay, so the monkeys pose no risk to public health. If people encounter the monkeys, they are advised to stay away from them and to not fly drones in the area. The company said they are skittish and might run away from where they are gathered. So I guess they feel like the monkeys are kind of settling down and becoming a little bit more comfortable, and maybe they will be a little bit more easily captured this final 11 here. But you had 43 monkeys running around loose in South Carolina last week.
You know, South Carolina and Clemson, we just talked about it on Top 5 Tuesday. It's a fierce rivalry, and South Carolina always finds itself in some random news, and so it's good to know that everybody is at least safe. To your point, though, I'm glad that it's all. I mean, I guess I don't really care because I don't live in Columbia, South Carolina, but the fact that it's all females, that way you don't have a massive colony, or I'm not even sure what the term would be, but if those things get loose, man, I mean, if you're living next to them things, you could have a full blown tribe of monkeys out there just taking over. So I'm glad to hear that everything's okay, and I love the fact they were, I don't know if it was an Uncrustable, but I love the fact that they were chowing down on some PB&J and were safe. That is good news.
Russell Okung could apparently chow down on some PB&Js, and quite a few of them. Former Carolina Panthers offensive tackle signed a contract in 2020 which called for half of his $13 million salary to be paid in Bitcoin. At the time, Bitcoin was $27,000 per coin, I guess. He got 240 of them with his 6.5 million. Those Bitcoins are now worth $21 million. Bitcoin was trading for $27,000 at the time that he signed his contract. It's now at $88,000. So that's more than 3 times, clearly. And Okung looking like a prophet on that deal. I don't really understand the crypto situation, but he made it work for him, and he can buy a lot of PB&Js or whatever else, clearly.
Man, I mean, so yeah, think about let's I'm trying to still do this math here because those are some eye-popping figures. He made more on that part of his investment than he did on the whole contract that he signed. At this point, I mean, that thing is taking off. I love this too. OBJ, near and dear to everybody's hearts, Odell Beckham Jr. He chimed in too. He couldn't be left out. He said, "Hey, I'm not the only one, or Okung's not the only one that did this." He tweeted and said that his whole Rams salary a couple years ago was in Bitcoin. He tweeted out a screenshot. This thing was up to like 92,000 earlier today or yesterday. So OBJ was wanting to remind everybody that he's paid too a little bit. Man, we talk about, guys and pro athletes leveraging their opportunities. This is kind of outside the box, but it seems to have worked.
And good for them, man. I mean, hey, secure the bag. I'm not mad at you. As long as we are in the sports realm here. It's a couple of weeks removed here at this point, unfortunately, but did you see Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear dressed up for Halloween as Ted Lasso?
I didn't necessarily know what state it was from. I did see a photo of a government official that was dressed up as Coach Lasso.
He stepped to his news conference on Halloween. The only thing he didn't have was the mustache that Jason Sudeikis sports in that hit TV show.
You got to at least get a fake mustache. I mean, that's
you would think
the costume is great. Everything looks good, but you at least just slap a fake mustache on right there.
Yeah, well, I mean, otherwise, it's almost like, okay, who are you? I mean, the mustache would have kind of removed all doubt, I would think. But he was dressed in a blue jacket, visor, and sunglasses in Ted Lasso character. Typically, eventually took them all off, but he, bringing a little levity, and good for him. We can use it in these times. So,
yeah, he was looking pretty good. That's. I'm wondering, what really completed it is if a significant other or someone else in the cabinet had dressed up as Coach Beard, Coach Lasso's sidekick. That would have really capped it off. But props to the KY governor for having some fun with it.
Keeping it in the soccer realm, there is a soccer club in Scotland, Bonnyrigg Rose, that is kind of group sourcing £100, which is $127,000, to level the playing surface on its facility in order to avoid any further point deductions. They've been given a 6-point deduction for having a sloping field at Bonnyrigg, which plays in Scottish League 2 and counts among its alumni former James Bond actor Sean Connery. So if you are a James Bond fan, help Bonnyrigg Rose out. They could use some help getting their field up to snuff. They received a points deduction for breaching the league's rules regarding the gradient of the field, and were told that the club has to provide details by the end of January of funding arrangements to get it leveled for this upcoming summer. So they are trying to raise some money to deal with that. Good luck to Bonnyrigg Rose.
Yeah, we need to come up, like you said, some crowdsourcing. I'm also saying, hey, you'll appreciate this. It's one thing if it's Scottish League 2. I've been to some TSSAA fields. They could use some help in that department as well. Luckily, there's no fines or point deductions for them.
That's tough. The point deduction. I mean, I never thought about that.
I'm wondering too if you play that to your advantage. Do you have an advantage? Hey,
I don't know where the advantage lies. I would guess it's just a player safety thing in general, but I can't imagine it benefits one team or the other.
Running some trick plays out there, go to the 40-yard line, making this up. Go to the 40-yard line, hook left, and I'll play a ball. You won't be able to see it, but trust me, it'll be there.
I mean, I guess it's harder to be offsides if you're running upfield, up a slope.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. If you are a Wizard of Oz fan, you can purchase Judy Garland's ruby slippers, which folks are glad that they have them in their possession because those slippers were stolen 2 decades ago.
Oh my.
The shoes had been loaned to the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids, Michigan in 2005. They were stolen, recovered in 2018. So you can buy those babies if you like.
Justin Adams, where you at?
Yeah, at least you would know where they are at that point.
Yeah.
That does it for Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today. Be sure and rejoin us tomorrow at 2 2 o'clock. And again, be sure and check out the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show here in an hour. We'll see y'all.